Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. I want to talk about a topic that I have personal knowledge about for many years already, but the general public, a wider audience, has just been made aware of this controversial issue um, very recently, like this summer actually. Or maybe there were cases before, but you know what I'm talking about. The topic is, of course, Chinese spies in Western countries who work in research labs and research universities. Now, I had my fair share of Chinese colleagues. I talked about that, for example, in a video where I tried to describe to you guys the safety rules and protocols and how Chinese researchers and students and technicians often were, let's say, very liberal in interpreting these hygiene and safety rules. Link in the description and in an info box. But today it is about spying, about espionage, and in particular, what happened here is we have visiting scholars, we have guest researchers, we have PhD students from China, and more often than not, they are party members, members of the Chinese Communist Party. That is very usual. But what is recently now the controversy in the USA and why these people have been arrested in the US and why also it created a diplomatic incident, of course. These people are not only members of the Communist Party, many researchers or professors actually are. Maybe in some fields, all of them have to be if they want to do their job. No, they are also active members of the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, so the armed forces of China. And that is, of course, now a totally different can of worms. This is a whole different affair now. I can totally understand it that, for example, the United States feels very uncomfortable, especially in computer science and engineering and things that might be dual use, to have people employed there to get access to the research data, to maybe internal information of these research groups and these research institutions, and they're active members of the Chinese military. I can totally understand that, and these were the cases. Just for your reference, dual use is declared when some research topic has civil as well as military applications. And that can be, and I think under George W. Bush, this has been expanded drastically. So I personally worked with people who lost their funding because they were foreigners working in the United States. They were full professors, tenured and all, but they were Europeans from a European country, and they worked on a research topic that they worked on for 10 years already. And under Bush, that was declared dual use. That means it has civil applications, but also military applications. It wasn't military research, it was civil research, but it was declared dual use. And then they lost their funding because then this research can only be done by US citizens or in US national labs or something, or Air Force labs or what have you, right? And that was really unfortunate for these people. They lost grants, they lost funding. They could still do the research, but they weren't funded anymore by the US government, or like DOE or DOD or something like that. Okay, but let's get back to the topic, to these Chinese spies. So I linked an article below that is explaining the current situation very well. It lists all the Chinese researchers that are charged now in the US that were arrested, that created this incident. And one, for example, lied in the course of the visa application about military service. He thought that that would, or that's what he says, it would increase his chances to get the visa granted. Then another one that is actually very saucy. A communication has been yeah, how should I say, interrupted, or not interrupted. Um, I think it was an email or some text message that they caught sent from a mobile device. That's how I understood it, to a Chinese consulate, where it was revealed that her being employed at a medical university, or a hospital or something in the medical field, is only for show. That in fact she's still working for the Chinese military, and that she plans to do research now in the US, and how to proceed basically. And that is interesting. That means people, these Chinese researchers, some of them, they are officially they are employed in a civil Chinese institution, but that is just a front. In truth, they are military members, and that is hidden. Some were just lying, and maybe they were clumsy about it. Maybe they are not really spies, but they were just stupid about it. And even I, when I went to the US, you get to fill out these forms, and they ask you very specifically if you have served in the military, and if yes, what kind of training you received in the military. And of course, I had to fill out, yes, I was in the military in Germany, and I have received training in these relevant fields, and you have to tell them otherwise. And if you lie, of course, that is a problem then when they find out that you lied. Well, you lied when you immigrated to the US. That's a big deal. In Germany, it's not a big deal. In Germany, everyone can just lie and it doesn't matter. But in the US, it is a big deal. That's at least how I understand it, at least when it concerns China and the military. Okay, so as I said, I have personal experience with that, and that is from Germany, actually. I should talk about that a little bit now. But about the article, it's actually interesting. One of them was doing research in artificial intelligence. And I will come back to that later a little bit. That is, we all think that the Chinese are so advanced in artificial intelligence, but yeah, apparently not advanced enough. They send people, especially to the US, but also to other countries, of course. The US is the only country that really actively does something against it. But in Europe, the same thing happens, of course. They send them there to find out about current research trends, about current emerging technologies. And they bring that research back then in order to strengthen the military capabilities of the People's Republic of China. All right. So now my experiences in Germany with that. So I worked in a research institute in Germany, and a professor there hired a very hot, very attractive Chinese postdoc. So she already had gotten her PhD, I think, in the United States or something, and she's Chinese, from the People's Republic. And as I said, very hot. And this woman, she used her good looks every day on a daily basis. She knew that she was hot, and she used that, towards that professor, but also to other members of the group. And I was already frowning a little bit. I mean, she posed as, and I think it's only a pose. She wanted to be seen as that typical U.S. college liberal girly, like total Barack Obama fan, and Democratic Party, the evil Republicans, and so on. And she also talked bad about China, right? She said, "Oh, I love China, but I recently visited there, and it's just not fun anymore. The people are too materialistic, and what they do to the poor environment, and they're so totalitarian, and they're so authoritarian, and it's just I couldn't live there anymore. I'm a free spirit, and um, so I think that is camouflage. Why? Because I know she didn't tell anybody, but she told me. She was a little drunk. Let's put it that way. She told me in confidence that she is a member of the Communist Party, and she hinted at military service. I don't know if she, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I know for a fact that this woman is a member of the Communist Party, and she hinted at military service and military background, and probably she's still in the military. So now she's still in Europe, and you can also spy in Europe, right? And what I find interesting is that this professor, the professor who hired her, he is not dumb. He was dumb in certain fields, a little gullible, but he was very interested in geopolitics and you know, very into politics. This postdoc, this Chinese postdoc, was the only person in the entire institute that wasn't given the password to the research institute's server. She was not granted access to our files. All the other people did, and this professor said to everyone personally, if you give her access, if you get her any files or tell her the password, I fire you. You're in trouble then. Don't give her the password. She is not allowed on our server. And I found that back then very interesting, very cool that he did that actually, because it showed that maybe he didn't know about her background, she didn't talk about that, but he had a sense. And I think he did not think that she was spying for the military. He thought probably that she would be passing this information, the research information, because we were doing research in very emerging, very hot topics where you have to publish really fast. Just 1 week, just 2 days could mean the difference between a Nature or a Science article and a, still okay, but not as prestigious second tier publication. And so his concern was probably that she would pass that information to older bosses, people she worked with in the United States or even in China before that. That is my hunch, because he was very, very almost, too much afraid, almost paranoid about people from other groups stealing our edge or our techniques that only we know about and stuff like that. So I think it was more that. But in the end, it turned out, like a couple of years later, I found out, well, she is a party member, and she's still a party member, and she probably was in the military. Okay, so I know that, and I also knew before about a case from the US where that guy was also a party member and where he was also in the military. And back then, it was not that big of a deal, or maybe one didn't really, um, well, maybe the US government or the public or the media or the FBI, whatever, they were not really actively going after these people at that time. It was a long time ago. But now, that would change, now if that comes out, and for some of these people, as you read in the article, they found pictures of them in military uniforms, and they said they were never in the military when they immigrated, when they applied for the visa, and yeah, that's a problem. The thing is that it didn't shock me. It didn't come as a surprise whatsoever, because of the experiences that I made, that I just told you about. This was never a surprise to me. I actually was wondering, oh, like this guy from back then, like that girl from back then, like why does nobody do a background check? Why are they still working there? I mean, I didn't, for a lot of the people that I knew, that I worked with from China, I didn't know anything. I told you a couple of cases now where they told me, because maybe, okay, she was a bit drunk, and the others, it was a different time. That was a time when they thought they can maybe tell that to someone in confidence, and it's not. Maybe they wanted to brag a little bit and make themselves more important than they are. Like, oh, I'm a party member. Like, they wanted to provoke me, Hey, I'm actually a communist and I work here, ha ha ha, in your face. Or, ooh, I was in the army, or I'm in the army. I don't know. Maybe that was a reason. I think nowadays they wouldn't brag about this anymore. Now they would be more careful. But there is another group of people, many, many other Chinese people, where I had my suspicions. And I just thought, why don't we do a background check? Why does the European Union or Germany or France or whoever, our secret service, our military, our, government agencies, whatever, why don't we do background checks on these people? Why don't we do that? Why does a professor have to say, oh, look, maybe they shouldn't get the passwords for the server, Okay. And as I said, some of them are men, some of them are not hot, but I know of 2 cases where they were extremely hot, and one was the one that was in the military. The other one was one where I had suspicions. Party member, I think, yes, both of them. One I knew, one I don't, but military, maybe one of them. as I said, they use sexuality. That's known from communist powers. That's known from Eastern Germany also. The Soviets. They all used sexy women to target certain people of interest, and yeah, they use guest researchers, they use PhD students, they use the fact that we are so open and so tolerant, and they want to exploit these weaknesses that Western countries have, because we believe, that everyone in the world should work together, and that we're like a big team, and humanity and ode to joy, like the European pseudo anthem, kumbaya. Yeah, that's what we think. And a lot of other powers, a lot of other cultures, they're constantly exploiting this. And you see this with China very strongly. It has been tolerated for a long time. I'm sure that people in power knew about that. I'm very much, I mean, I couldn't imagine that they don't know, when even some lowly grunt like me knew about that. So that is one topic. And maybe they already did these background checks, but they just were more discreet about it than the Americans are right now, where it's front page. I don't know if front page news, but it's big in the news right now in the United States. It created an international diplomatic incident. It's on the, at least for me, it's on the top page, right? But maybe in Europe they handle it more discreet. I hope they do something at all. I could imagine that they just don't care, you know, that they think, oh, if the Chinese get this research, it's spreading in the world, and ultimately that's a good thing because we want humanity to progress. So if we have it, if they have it, who cares? It's doing something good somewhere at least. Yeah, right. When the Chinese military uses it, it does something good. Huh? But that's speculative. I don't know what the decision makers, what these people think, what their attitude is towards this problem, or if they even see it as a problem, if they identified it as a problem in the European Union. Because I think right now that the US is actively doing something, and probably they will, or the Chinese maybe, they will target more the EU because they think that we are softer targets, we're not actively shielding our information, our research from them. And as I said, in the in the beginning I mentioned, or earlier in the video I mentioned, artificial intelligence. We all think that artificial intelligence is such a big topic in China, with facial recognition cameras wherever you go. I mean, I was there. I filmed there. I was always filmed by 3 cameras at the same time from 3 different angles, even in little side streets. And it wasn't even Shanghai. It was a different town, and smaller town, quiet part of town, little side street. Still 3 cameras, on me, on every point. Yeah, that's the way it is. And so we think artificial intelligence, the Chinese must be leading, blah blah blah. A lot of people talk China up, that they are so far advanced, and I believe it when I see it. That's what I'm going to say about that. At least in my field, the topics where I have some deeper understanding, I see that they're trying to copy a lot, that they're buying a lot of equipment and a lot of material. They have the newest labs and the latest material. And, when we have 1 machine in our lab, they have 5 machines in their lab, so they can do more research, more tests, more samples, more test runs, whatever. Yeah, they pump a lot of money into research labs, and they take shiny PR pictures of their cool new research labs, but I don't see anything useful coming out of these labs yet. They just don't have the brain power. What they do is very derivative. They're trying to copy certain approaches, certain experiments, certain devices from Western countries, but I don't see them really doing anything groundbreaking, Um, uh, so I believe it when I see it. It could be that they're very advanced, but I don't really see it in the literature yet. And even 10 years ago, people said, "Oh, they're so advanced." Yeah, but where is your success? Where is it? I don't see it. That's what I wanted to say about that. So don't make the mistake and think that just because they're investing a lot of money in that, they would actually be so advanced in research or in physics or in engineering, what have you. I don't really see it. And one more thing I want to say is that a lot of Chinese researchers, they do very well in the West. You see that they win prizes and they have Science, Nature, and all these publications and their stars. But when they go back to China, when they go back to their homeland, and because they won all this prestige in Harvard and Zurich and all these great names, okay, and they're then given like, they become a PI, a principal investigator. They become a institute leader. They have probably 50, 100, or even 500 people working below them, and they have like hundreds of or tens, hundreds of millions of dollars of worth of equipment in their institute. Then, yeah, but I don't see any success coming out of there. It seems like they do very well in our system, in our research labs, but when they go back, they become mediocre again. It's funny, huh? Okay, so food for thought, maybe. All right. So to sum up, I think that spying has become a problem. CCP members and also military members, they pose as just civil researchers, just postdocs, visiting scholar, but in fact they work for the military. So that is not new, but now it's in the headlines, and I think the US is doing something against it. We in Europe, we must do the same. We must respond. We can't allow these military spies to siphon off our research, which took a lot of investment and hard work and European ingenuity, and they just steal it. We can't allow that. All right. So that's it from my side. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about that, and be safe wherever you are. Servus, Kameraden.